Saturday Down South just listed Texas A&M's ceiling for the upcoming season, and they're just not right.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monopoly Go. Game off, we got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So, saw an article this morning, was laying in bed. I was going, okay, what are we going to talk about today? And I found an article from someone who we've talked about before on the show, Conner Weigman, who writes for Saturday Down South. And once again, the guy, I really like what he does. But I'm pretty sure I talked about something of his 2 or 3 months ago, and it was kind of the same thing. Kind of disagreed with him. And I really disagree with him here. So he wrote an article listing the ceiling for every SEC team. And perhaps we have a different meaning of ceiling. Perhaps, and he wrote the factors that went into this. But all of the factors that let's just read the blurb. Let's read the blurb. So he says, Texas A&M ceiling, 8-4. The Aggies have two things working in their favor. One is that all of their biggest games, Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU, and Texas, as we've said here on the show, are at home. Nobody that they play away from home had a winning record in 2023. There you go. A&M also ranks number one in the SEC in percentage of returning production with a team that updated at the head coaching spot, which that's a little surprising. The questions are on the offensive line and the non-defensive line pieces of Elko's defense, but there's a lot to like if Conner Weigman can stay healthy and if Nick Scorton forms an elite pass rushing duo with Shamar Stewart. I agree with all that. So why isn't it a higher ceiling than the proverbial 8-4? Well, A&M lost 10 consecutive true road games entering 2024. Until that fades, 12-team playoff upside isn't realistic. So, you know what's funny? If we had this roster and Jimbo Fisher was still the head football coach at Texas A&M, I wouldn't disagree with his take here. I would not. But I just think that the 10 consecutive true road games losses on the road, I agree with that, but I just don't think I don't think it matters. And this might be controversial. Some might disagree with this. You're changing coaches. I don't think that what the previous coach did, Jimbo Fisher made countless and countless and countless decisions that we all here, as all you everydayers know, agree with me, we don't agree with. And it felt like this always happened on the road. It was always on the road. He did something where it's like, oh, we're leading at half, but we have 50 seconds on the clock, and maybe we can go get a field goal to extend the lead. Now we'll take it to half, or we're not going to go for it here. We are going to go for it here. And you go, what is he doing? And a lot of those led to losses. And I think that should change when the coach changes. And I'm not really saying give Elko the benefit of the doubt. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, hey, Elko is for sure going to win 11 games. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I think that you have to look at this because this is what frustrates me about his analysis. Because I as I said, I agree with everything he had to write until the last two sentences. Everything we've said here on the show. You have your most significant games are at home. Your toughest games are at home. Your road games, all those teams didn't have a winning record last season. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I do not understand the 8-4 thing. And here's the deal. Like, if this were to be a record projection, I could live with 8-4. 8-4 is fine. But it's a ceiling, which ceiling to me, and I read his description, so and he's with me on this. Ceiling to me is the best case scenario for each team. Your ceiling is this number. Like if you ask me the ceiling for Texas A&M's team, and once again, the ceiling is allowed to be a little bit. If you want to be unrealistic, you could say it's 10 wins. If you want to be a little bit more realistic, you could say it's 9-3. And then you'd list the floor. I'd say probably it's 7-5. That'd be my floor. I think that's the worst case scenario. I think Texas A&M finishes somewhere between 7-5, 8-4, and 9-3. That's my honest opinion on the season. So I think having the ceiling as 8-4, not 9-3, I think that is a crazy, crazy take. And then let's go over this. So you say, well, A&M has lost 10 consecutive true road games during 2024 until its phase 12-team playoff upset isn't realistic. But you just said Texas A&M is playing not great competition on the road this year. It'd be very different. And this is a point I will always make for those fans of other fan bases. They go, oh, here goes Texas A&M fans saying crazy stuff again. So all of my takes on this season are based on the schedule. Every one of them. I have said this on the show before, and I'll say it one more time. If Texas A&M was not, if they were playing Ole Miss and Bama and Georgia on the road, do you think I would be sitting here saying that they're going to win? I think they can win 9 football games. No, I would not be saying that. I'd be saying Elko needs to be bowl eligible in year one. But he was gifted this schedule. He was gifted to it. It was handed to him on a silver platter. So now you got to take advantage of it. And you do. You cannot lose. I think that worst case scenario needs to be 7-5. So, and I read the whole article when it comes to other teams. I'll be honest with you, there weren't many ceilings that I disagreed with. Like, let's go through a couple of these other schools. Tennessee 10-2. Like at that one, I don't know if ceiling. What I'm saying is ceiling. That's fair. But then if that's the ceiling for Tennessee, then why isn't the ceiling for Texas A&M 9-3? Ole Miss 11-1. I think that's fair. Oklahoma 9-3. I think that's fair. I think Oklahoma's a team that's honestly in a somewhat similar position as Texas A&M. And I bet you, and I don't know this, but I bet you their schedule's not the same. So Missouri 10-2 is fair. Mississippi State 6-6 is fair. LSU 10-2 is fair. Kentucky 8-4, fair. Georgia 12-0 is fair. Florida 7-5. So, this to me, this is wild to me. So you give Florida a 7-5 ceiling, and then your first sentence here is, I almost went with 8-4. Florida has the toughest schedule probably in college football. Once again, if you haven't seen it, it is an absolute gauntlet. I don't get how you can say that they're going to win 8 football games with this schedule. That I don't think they'll win 7. Honestly, if their win line, I bet you, let's say it was 5.5, I'd bet the under. I would. I don't agree there. Auburn 8-4. I don't agree. Texas A&M and Auburn should have the same ceiling. I think I think 8-4 is fine for Auburn. Once again, I think Texas A&M should be 9-3. Arkansas 7-5, whatever. Alabama 11-1. That's fine. This is. I don't disagree. I disagree with a couple of these. I don't disagree with all of them. So I need to reach out to Conner Weigman and see if we can get him on the show, because this would be a fun, debate to have with him. I just would like to get his thoughts on this. But I just don't. I think the things that have been working in Texas A&M's favor over the last 2-3 off seasons, which is the hype train. Everybody knows the hype train. Texas A&M, whoa, they're going to be so great. They're going to be the best team in the world. And then you go 7-5. You go 8-4. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like that. That is what has happened over the last few years. And listen, I get that. Everybody gets that. We all get that. The point here is, I like this roster not quite as much as last year's roster. Obviously, but I like this roster a lot. This roster can compete right this second. I have no concerns about that at all. This roster can compete right now. And then you add on top of that the schedule. You add on top of that the coaching, which I think is going to be better X's and O's wise, better game decision-making wise, better player development wise. Then I think all of these factors say to me 9-3. So once again, I think that if you're bold, you could say 10-2 is the ceiling. I would list the ceiling for Texas A&M as at 9-3. And I think that is a very, very fair. That means that you take care of business. As I've said, the way to get there, you take care of business in the road games you should win at Florida, at Auburn, Mississippi State. You take care of business in those games. A couple of them are tough, but you still take care of business. And then you beat somebody at home you're not supposed to. One game. It's all you got to do. I mean, the path to it is not hard to talk yourself into. So I disagree. And he's not far. I mean, if he had 7-5, I would be, I would be very, very upset. 8-4, I can live with it because I think that's just the perspective on Texas A&M. Oh, we've overhyped them for so long. We're going to underhype them now. And I think that's what's happening. And I think that's fair, to be honest with you. But what I'm saying is, I think from someone who talks about this team on a day-to-day basis, I think this team has a 9-3 ceiling. So let me know y'all's thoughts on that in the YouTube comments. I'm really curious. We're going to talk a little bit about why Conner Weigman's season will shape the future of the quarterback position at Texas A&M. We're going to have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. You need a candidate quickly? Well, LinkedIn has got you covered. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So I want to have a conversation, and obviously everybody loves to talk about quarterbacks. We've talked about quarterbacks a million times here on Locked On Aggies, but I want to have this a different way. I was reading another article this morning, and it didn't really pertain to Texas A&M because the quarterback. So it was 2025 NFL draft making a case for SEC quarterbacks, and Conner Weigman was not involved in this article, which is fair. I get that. But I want to have the conversation that the way Conner Weigman plays this season will define or will shape the future of Texas A&M's quarterback room. And I really do believe that. So here's the thing. Unfortunately, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, the new world of college athletics, the transfer portal is a real thing. At times, we even have to talk and anticipate, hey, if this guy doesn't get playing time, I bet you $50 he enters the portal. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the reality here. That's what we have to do now in the new world of college football as people are leaving. And so I think that if Conner Weigman has the season that I believe he can, as all of y'all know, all you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know what I believe that means. I believe he can have a monster season. But I believe he's going to have a monster season. But if he doesn't, he's going to stick around. He's not going anywhere. If Conner Weigman does not have, if he has a fine year, like if he has a good season, like if 10 out of 10 is perfect, if he has like a 7 out of 10 season, 6 out of 10 season, I bet you he comes back for another year. If he has a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 season, I bet you he's potentially a early day 2, late day 1 pick in the NFL draft. I mean, the upside's there. NFL scouts have said that. It's just, I'm not saying anything crazy. I mean, NFL scouts like Conner Weigman and like the future there, but he's just not been able to stay on the field to prove it. If you can stay on the field, you can prove it. So if you keep Conner Weigman healthy and he has this massive year that I think is possible, I think that you're going to see Conner Weigman head to the NFL draft. If that happens, then Marcel Reed and Jalen Henderson immediately are competing for that job for next season, not this season, next season. And then you've still got Miles O'Neill, the 2024 quarterback, who's getting ready to come in here soon. And then you've got, of course, the commit, Houston Longstreet. We're going to actually have a conversation with our Locked On recruiting host, Brian Smith, this week. He texted me. I was getting dinner with my buddies, and I get a text, and he just said, Houston Longstreet did not have a good showing this weekend. So we're going to have Brian on this week to talk about what he saw, what he thinks. Is this concerning for the future? Was it just a bad day? We'll have him on, have that conversation. But so, is O'Neill truly part of the future? That's a fun conversation to have. I've talked about how he's a guy, how, we're going to look at him as, okay, he's just a quarterback on the roster. But I mean, the dude's got a cannon. How many times do we see 3-star quarterbacks turn into starters and become great players? It happens all the time. I think you could see something happen like that with Miles. He has, it's strictly based on the cannon he possesses for an arm and the upside. Those two things. There is upside there. So what does his future look like? But once again, so that means in 2025, those four guys, assuming Conner Weigman has this massive season and goes to the NFL, those four guys, Marcel Reed, Jalen Henderson, Miles O'Neill, and Houston Longstreet, will be competing for the job. Houston Longstreet will be a freshman, O'Neill a sophomore, and then Reed and Henderson will both be, I guess technically, because they'll be sophomores this year. Or no, Henderson was a sophomore. Yeah. So one will be a senior, one will be a junior, I believe. I need to check on. I'm going to pull up Jalen Henderson's eligibility. It's funny how hard that is now with the COVID stuff. He was listed as a sophomore, so that means this year he'll be a junior and then he'll be a senior. So that'd be Henderson's senior year, Reed's junior year, O'Neill's sophomore year, and Longstreet's freshman year. So you're perfectly, hey, I got one of these at each spot. It would also be Conner Weigman's sophomore year senior year if he returned for 2025. But the point here is this. If Conner Weigman does have a really good season and goes to the NFL draft, I think you're in a really good spot with Marcel Reed and Jalen Henderson to be able to just be in a good spot future-wise for the position. I've said it time and time again. Those two quarterbacks is why we talked about one day last week. I think it was On 3 ranked Texas A&M's quarterback room is number 10 in all college football. They have a really good room with a lot of talent. So one of these two guys would step into that starting role. I believe it would be Marcel Reed, especially with another year in the system. But once again, Jalen Henderson is a very good quarterback. And that battle would be a very, very fun one to watch. I'll tell you that. I hope we get to have this debate back and forth all year. But if Conner Weigman returns for another season, I think you're going to see one of these guys hit the portal. And I think that's just the reality of college football. It's just reality of what college football is now. These players, and there's nothing wrong with it because it's the rules. You're allowed to do it. There's nobody's doing anything wrong, but it's just the reality of what's going on here. So I think, once again, to reiterate the point, how Conner Weigman plays this year will decide the future of the position. If he has a great season and goes to the NFL, I think you're going to see Reed and Henderson both stick around and compete for that job. If he stays for another year, Weigman does, and plays in 2025, I think you're going to see one of those two guys leave. And I don't know who it would be. There's a world you could see both of them leave, and then you've got O'Neill and Longstreet as backups. You probably have to go get somebody in the portal. Like players, if you want to have a future in the game of football, sometimes sitting and waiting and using up eligibility isn't the way to do that. And that might be, and I look up if Marcel Reed used a redshirt year this year. I don't know if he did. I have to look that up. If y'all know that, let me know in the comments. Did Marcel Reed use a redshirt? Because what are the rules on that? It's like if you appear in so many games, but didn't he only appear in like 2 games? Obviously the bowl game, and then I think he was in garbage time one game. So let me know that in the comments. I'll look it up too, but let me know if y'all know in the YouTube comments. But the point here is something to pay attention to. The future of and you go, Andrew, this is 2025. We'll worry about that then. I agree with you. on that. But the reason this conversation to me is so important is because I think that it's the quarterback position. It's the most important position on the football field. You have to have all of your ducks in a row, knowing where you're going to go future-wise with this position. So you need to know where your head's at, and you need to be mentally preparing for what happens within either of these scenarios. So that is my thoughts there. I also want y'all to do me a favor. We're going to talk a little bit about, and I don't want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. The series lost to LSU. I don't want to talk about it, but we're going to. Let me know in the YouTube comments y'all's thoughts, and we'll talk about this on tomorrow's show. Let me know in the YouTube comments y'all's thoughts on on the transfer portal. It's gone a little bit quiet. Does anybody have any concerns? Do you think Texas A&M goes and gets anybody else? What are y'all's thoughts on this position? On who are they going to add in the portal? Will they add anybody? Want to hear everybody's thoughts. Is anybody concerned? Let me know all of that in the YouTube comments, because I want that to be a conversation tomorrow, and I'll kind of go through some people's thoughts while we do it. But we're going to talk a little bit about the Aggies series loss to LSU, as much as it's going to bring me pain, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or robot machines, and there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the first. Oh man, I can't bring myself to talk about it. It's going to upset me. First series loss since the opening weekend of SEC baseball against the Florida Gators. I'll be honest with you. I had a weird feeling about this series, and I think I voiced that a little bit when we discussed it on Friday. LSU is a good baseball team that hasn't quite had the year many expected, but I mean, they go on a run here. So what are they now? They were 7-14, so now they're 9-15. Does that sound right? Yeah, that sounds about right. So they're about 9-15. I mean, if they go on a run and win back-to-back series, I'd have to. I'll be honest with you. I need to look at the numbers to see what gets you into the NCAA tournament as an SEC team. So, like, if they win their next two series and they finish with 13 wins in SEC play, are they going to make the tournament? Like, I need to see that. I don't know how many wins, just because I need to check that out. But beside the point. The point here is you lose the series. We'll talk about game 3 because game 3 is huge, but we'll start with game 1. So game 1, you lose 4-6. Laviolette goes 3-4 with an RBI and a homer. Camarillo, 2 bombs. He swung the bat well a lot this weekend. And Ryan Prager, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 earned, 2 strikeouts. So the ball was booted around a little bit. You had a couple errors from Grahovac. There was some, 2 unearned runs. That stuff is how you get sent home early in the postseason, is booting around the baseball. You have got to field the ball clean. And I'm fine. I think Texas A&M's defense has been very solid this year. But this is a ball game where you booted a little bit and it costs you. So you got to be careful fielding the baseball, throwing the ball across the diamond. This stuff happens, and I think that you need to be better fielding the ball. And it's just a game like this. This stuff happens. It's just a reality. So I'm not concerned about long term, but you lose this game 4-6. Game 2, you've got to win for game 3 to be for the series. You can't do it. You lose 4-6 again. You score 3 in the top of the first, and then you end with 4 runs, and your 4th run came in the top of the 9th inning. So, it's hard to win a game, I think, in this conference with 4 runs. I think you need to be in that. I think 6 is always the number I'd shoot for. I think 6 runs wins a lot of baseball games here, as we saw for LSU. Shane, this is funny. Shane comes in and throws 3.1 innings of one hit, one earned run, one earned run baseball, and takes the loss, which is so unfortunate because it was a solid outing, and just that one run cost you the loss. But then game 3, when you lose a series, when you have already lost a series and you're getting ready to play the third game, there's one word that needs to be on the brain, and that is salvage. You have got to salvage a win. And for a while, when LSU went up 3-0, I went, oh, man, they're going to get swept. They're going to get swept. But a 9-run 5th inning and a 5-run 9th inning make that not a reality as you win this ball game 14-4. Here's the deal. Good baseball teams lose series. Look at the MLB. I mean, the Dodgers, the Orioles, good teams lose series. It happens. It does happen. And that's what happened this weekend. Texas A&M is a better team. They went on the road and they lost a series, and that's okay. That stuff's going to happen. This team is still in position to, once again, Arkansas went to Kentucky this weekend. Now, this is not totally different. Kentucky is ranked number 8. I'm a believer that they're a tad bit overrated, but it's still a top 10 series win for Kentucky. What I'm saying is you still beat Arkansas, so it's not the same as losing to LSU on the road. But good teams lose series. It happens. Arkansas loses 2 this weekend. Texas A&M loses 2 to a worse team, but still loses 2. So you need to bounce back. Ole Miss, and then that huge, huge series coming up with Arkansas. That is going to be a ton of fun. Just such a fun series. So, salvaging a win here was huge. Getting swept would not have been ideal. It was a great job to salvage a win. That's going to be huge for, long-term help with seeding. It's a good job there. Keep winning your midweek games. Take down Ole Miss. Take down Arkansas. And I think that you're going to be the number 1 overall seed. I think it's simple as that. So that is my take here. Tough to lose a series, but this team's going to bounce back. This team's really good. All is going to be fine. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. I really appreciate y'all being here. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their Monday, and we will see you tomorrow.